China's economy in 2025 looks like a skyscraper whose foundations have already rotted away, still towering for the moment, but waiting to collapse at any time. The warning signs aren't isolated anymore. They're everywhere. Real estate, trade, jobs, even daily survival, they all tell the same story of decay. In Guangzhou, the picture is stark. Long lines of jobless workers standing in 30-degree heat. Job fairs so overcrowded that desperate applicants wrap around entire stadiums. In city after city, shopping malls lie hollow, with one shuttered storefront after another displaying for lease signs. A man in Guangdong confessed bitterly, even hawking goods on the street no longer earns enough to feed himself, let alone a family. Beneath these snapshots lies a brutal truth. 70% of Chinese household wealth has already evaporated. Official figures show that 85% of families earn less than 50,000 yuan a year, around 4,000 yuan, about $536 a month. Within that, more than 936 million people live on under 2,000 yuan, about $282 a month. In China's cities, that isn't living, it's barely keeping the lights on. For hundreds of millions, survival has replaced any notion of a future. A nation on the edge, the death of real estate dream. Real estate was once the crown jewel of China's economic miracle. Buying an apartment wasn't only a necessity but also the surest path to wealth. Today, it has become a trap. In Beijing, a villa that once sold for over 3 million yuan, about $422,000, was marked down to just above 900,000 yuan, about $127,000 within 3 months, and eventually dumped for 750,000. The owner, who once had assets in the tens of millions, was suddenly wiped out. Yet even at steep losses, many homeowners are desperate to sell. Carrying mortgages at a time of falling incomes is unbearable. Across major cities, housing prices have collapsed by 60 to 70%. Agents have shuttered their offices en masse, laying off workers by the tens of thousands. Some employees keep going to work without pay, forced to spend their own money to maintain appearances. What millions once believed, that property was the only way to safeguard wealth, has revealed itself to be a nationwide Ponzi scheme. Local governments profited by selling land, banks by issuing loans, developers by flipping properties. Ordinary families, however, mortgaged their futures. When the bubble burst, the middle class fell into what economists call the mortgage trap. Unable to sell, unable to repay, and watching decades of savings vanish. Jack Ma's return, savior or witness? In September 2025, an unexpected twist captured the world's attention. Jack Ma reappeared after 3 years in near exile, stepping back into Alibaba's leadership with a bold new focus on artificial intelligence and food delivery, while openly declaring war on rivals JD and Meituan. Bloomberg even reported that banners inside Alibaba's offices now read MAGA, not Trump's Make America Great Again, but Make Alibaba Great Again. The news exploded across global headlines. Jack Ma isn't just a businessman, he is, or was, the symbol of China's entrepreneurial golden age. His comeback sparked speculation. Could he revive Alibaba? Could he restore confidence in China's faltering economy? According to the Vision Times, the sobering answer is likely no. No matter how visionary, a single individual cannot reverse a structural collapse. Hostile policies, political interference, and suffocating regulations have long since eroded the ecosystem that once allowed giants like Alibaba to flourish. Jack Ma's return may not mark a rebirth, but rather a tragic chapter. The legend of Chinese entrepreneurship forced to witness the disintegration of the very stage on which it once triumphed. Yet there is another layer to this story. Jack Ma was once harshly suppressed by Xi Jinping, driven off the stage and often forced to live abroad. Now, however, word is spreading that he has returned with striking force. Commentator Li Muyang poses a sharp question. If Xi were still firmly in command, could Jack Ma really have staged such a powerful comeback? And if not, does his reappearance hint at deeper political tremors inside Zhongnanhai? A wave of despair. 5 business leaders took their own lives in 4 months. If Jack Ma had the fortune to return, others were less lucky. In just 4 months of 2025, 5 high-profile entrepreneurs ended their own lives. April, Bi Guangjun, textile magnate from Shaoxing, 56, leapt from a building. May, Li Wenchao, founder of Shizi Elevator, 54, chose the same fate. June, Shen Kangming, chairman of Zhejiang Construction Investment, 54, jumped to his death. July, Zheng Yuzhou, head of Liangjiaju, 53, followed suit. July, Wang Linpeng, chairman of EasyHome, 57, also took his own life. All were between 50 and 60, the supposed peak years of achievement. Yet political pressure, financial collapse, and systemic dysfunction turned titans of industry into casualties. Compared to them, Jack Ma might indeed be lucky. He endured state suppression and years in the shadows, but at least he survived to re-enter public life. The contrast is striking. Some are reduced to despair, while others are recalled as symbols. Together, their fates underscore a chilling reality. No level of success shields you from the tightening grip of a collapsing system. A forbidden book returns, echoes of the Ming Dynasty. While business leaders falter, a surprising cultural phenomenon has stirred debate. Banned books are quietly reappearing on mainland shelves. Among them is The Chongzhen Emperor, Diligent Ruler of a Failed Dynasty, a biography pulled from circulation in 2023. The official reason at the time was printing errors. In truth, the problem lay on the cover. Blunder after blunder, mistake after mistake. The more diligent, the faster the fall. Readers couldn't miss the parallel with Xi Jinping, who likewise portrays himself as tireless and frugal, yet seems to be steering China into crisis. The book, written by the late historian Chen Wutong, portrays the last Ming emperor, Chongzhen. Determined to revive his dynasty, Chongzhen purged corrupt eunuchs, tightened court discipline, and lived simply. He was not cruel, nor was he greedy, yet his reign spiraled downward. He sought to enrich the state, but mismanaged funds, leaving the military underfunded. He sought to strengthen the army, but levied excessive taxes, driving the people to misery. He sought to end factionalism, but his favoritism deepened divisions. He sought to use talent, but paranoia led him to execute his best general, Yuan Chongwan. In 1644, as rebel forces breached Beijing, Chongzhen killed his consorts and climbed Jingshan Hill. There he hanged himself, leaving a final decree: I cannot face my ancestors. Blame my ministers, not the people. Do not harm a single civilian. The Ming Dynasty collapsed that day, after 276 years of rule. For many in China today, drawing parallels between Xi Jinping and Emperor Chongzhen is unavoidable. Like Chongzhen, Xi began his rule by striking at corruption and proclaiming lofty slogans such as, "The people are the foundation of the nation." Yet step by step, he gathered all power into his own hands, silenced opposition, and surrounded himself only with those who obey. Now, just as Chongzhen did in the final years of the Ming, Xi finds himself besieged on every side. An economy in freefall, foreign powers decoupling, society simmering with unrest, and even his own officials growing disloyal and inert. It was no accident that Beijing ordered the book pulled from shelves. When it resurfaced, it did so under the sanitized title The Biography of Chongzhen, its cover cleansed of the provocative line. Yet its quiet return after 2 years of enforced silence carries a deeper message. Xi's once iron grip has already weakened. The Hidden Stone, Heaven's Verdict? If Chongzhen is history's mirror, then the so-called hidden character stone in Guizhou is, to many, a verdict from heaven. Discovered in 2002 in Pingtung County, the stone's fractured surface reveals 6 naturally formed Chinese characters. The Chinese Communist Party perishes. 3 separate teams of geologists from Beijing and beyond examined it and confirmed that the rock is 270 million years old, showing no trace of human carving, entirely natural in formation. According to the Epoch Times, in May 2025, a local visitor to the scenic site risked a 200-megapixel camera. The hidden character stone was encased behind bulletproof glass, making any clear shot nearly impossible. But when a guard briefly stepped away, he slipped his device through a narrow gap in the glass and captured what is now believed to be the clearest image of the stone ever taken. And it wasn't just the inscription, "The Chinese Communist Party perishes," that grabbed attention. What electrified discussion online were the faint numbers that seemed to follow those words. When zoomed in, the first two digits were unmistakable: 2 and 0. The third, with high probability, appeared to be another 2. And the final digit? After carefully ruling out other options, the photographer said it looked most like a 9, though he admitted it could also be a 7. Taken together, the markings seemed to point to two possible years for the collapse of the Chinese Communist Party: 2029 or 2027. To the man behind the camera, this was no coincidence. Whichever it turns out to be, he declared, the party's downfall will come within the next 4 years. This is heaven's decree, and nothing can stop it. In traditional Chinese cosmology, dynasties fall not merely from human folly, but from heaven's mandate being withdrawn. The eerie inscriptions seem to echo that worldview. History itself had sentenced the party. Set against the parallels with Chongzhen, the symbolism grows even stronger. Just as strange omens and celestial anomalies foreshadowed the Ming Dynasty's fall, many today see warnings in natural signs and rising unrest in China. The hidden stone has become a prophetic talisman, a reminder that the collapse of the CCP is not a question of if, but when. Why the CCP shows no fear. To outsiders, the most puzzling aspect is the regime's apparent indifference. GDP contracts, foreign capital flees, youth unemployment soars, housing implodes, yet Beijing acts as though unbothered, even tightening controls further. According to commentator Edward Wenming, the reason is structural. The CCP's survival does not depend on prosperity, but on systematic exploitation and absolute control. Of China's 1.4 billion people, real power rests with perhaps 10 million officials. Around 300 million workers form the economic backbone: the tax base, the consumers, the producers. As long as these groups remain trapped in financial pressure and the rest remain silent and fragmented, the machine grinds on. Revenue streams are designed to extract wealth with precision: direct and hidden taxes, land sales and inflated housing, state monopolies in oil, electricity, and utilities, education, healthcare, and transit fees. Financial markets skewed against small investors. But where does all this money actually go? Certainly not to improve the lives of ordinary citizens. Instead, it flows straight into the party's priority systems of control. First, the sprawling stability maintenance system: the police, state security, armed police, and an immense surveillance apparatus. The Skynet facial recognition grid, real name registrations, biometric payment systems, and big data profiling are all designed to classify and monitor every citizen as a potential risk. Second, the propaganda machine. Beyond CCTV and Xinhua, it extends to People.cn, Sina, Weibo, and Douyin's recommendation algorithms. Each year, over 300 billion yuan, approximately $42.2 billion in subsidies keep state media afloat, while armies of online commentators and censors work full-time to shape public opinion. Third, the military-industrial complex. Hypersonic missiles, aircraft carriers, nuclear submarines, all are prioritized. The People's Liberation Army operates as a state within a state, with opaque finances but a budget second only to the United States. Fourth, the United Front Network. Funds are used to penetrate Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, to buy the loyalty of overseas Chinese associations, and to bankroll universities and media abroad. Across the United States, Canada, and Southeast Asia, billions are spent exporting party influence. Fifth, checkbook diplomacy. Beijing spends lavishly in Africa, the Pacific, and Latin America, trading aid for diplomatic support and UN votes. The Belt and Road Initiative alone consumes hundreds of billions annually, producing deficits and debt rather than growth. Whatever the channel, the pattern is the same: stability first, livelihoods later. Protecting the architecture of power always comes before improving the lives of ordinary people. And what about the risk of rebellion? This is where the CCP's calculation becomes clearest. It does not need 1.4 billion people to obey. It only needs the 10 million at the top, officials, generals, loyal elites, to share in the spoils and enforce order. It then keeps the 300 million economic backbone pinned down by mortgages, taxes, and endless work. And it leaves the remaining 1 billion people silent, mistrustful of one another, and unable to organize. The result is a society that looks stable on the surface, but in reality functions like a vast cage, fragmented, exhausted, and policed into submission. And Xi Jinping understands that as long as the machinery of power keeps running, the propaganda apparatus stays loud, and the stability funds keep flowing, the party state's grip on power will hold. Prophecy and the Endgame. On September 5, 2025, British predictor Craig Hamilton Parker issued a bold claim. Xi Jinping would be forced from power, and the Chinese Communist Party would collapse before the close of 2026. For many Chinese, his words echoed the inscription on the hidden character stone in Guizhou, and the long-whispered belief that the party's demise would come within the next 4 years, between 2026 and 2029. Set against the comparisons to Chongzhen, the last emperor of the Ming, the sense grows that history is once again repeating its patterns. History's turning point. Look at the pieces now on the table: a real estate market in freefall, entrepreneurs driven to despair, Jack Ma's unlikely return, a once-banned book about a fallen emperor back in circulation, a stone in Guizhou with characters carved by time, and a modern prophecy pointing to an imminent end. Put together, they form a mosaic of crisis. History teaches that when dynasties fall, omens multiply. For the Ming, it was Chongzhen's frantic missteps that hastened the end. For China today, it may be Xi Jinping's dictatorial grip that is dragging the system toward inevitable rupture. Whether the trigger comes through economic implosion, political fracture, or what many call the will of heaven, the direction is clear. But the trajectory is unmistakable. The question is no longer if the break will come, but when. And when it does, the shock will not be contained within China's borders. It will ripple across the globe. An upheaval as profound as the fall of any dynasty in the nation's long, turbulent history. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you found this analysis valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.